So Larry, we did a podcast this past Thursday. I think it was February 27th.
A long time ago.
It feels like a long time ago. And we were talking about the obstacles to peace in Ukraine.
Yes.
And that was when UK's Prime Minister am I saying Starmer was here? Starmer. And then on Friday, Zelensky and Trump and Vance got into an argument in the White House.
Yes.
And that has changed things. The no mineral deal was signed. The whole world seems a little concerned about Trump and Zelensky's move there, and I don't know if it was just hot-headedness or if there was something behind this being ramped up. But as we know, Zelensky has gone on to Europe to talk to the UK and France. And
I don't understand the meeting, the dynamics of the meeting at all. I mean, apparently, and I have not watched all 50 minutes of it, but the first 40 minutes were okay. And it was in the last 10 minutes when Zelensky was sitting there in a belligerent kind of mode, questioning American policy, saying this about America and so forth. And both Trump and Vance took offense to it. And that's when Trump went off the end, because he's not about to be put up with Zelensky's thing, especially since, as Trump said, you don't have the cards to play the game.
He doesn't, right.
And the United States has been the supporter militarily $350 billion to the Ukraine. So if I had been Zelensky, and I think most people would say the same thing, if I had been Zelensky, I would have been in there not in a subservient way, but in a way of appreciation and friendliness, to say thank you for all the support, we'd like more support. But for him to come in like sort of a pit bull saying I need this and I need that, I think it was a bad form, and Trump is not about to put up with that. No. So I don't understand why he did it. I don't understand why.
I did see one moment, I watched that part too, where it seemed like Trump really got heated when Zelensky said, you know, you have an ocean.
Yeah.
And so it's not as easy for us to be invaded, but that you will be invaded.
Yeah.
And that I really took Trump to me to say, don't tell me what's going to happen and not happen. And that just went on from there.
Yeah, it went on from there. And to me, it was so unnecessary. I mean, this whole mineral deal should have been signed without him even coming to Washington. So why did he even come?
I mean, right. Why did he?
Everybody thought it was a done deal because the mineral deal, even if it's signed today, there isn't going to be much action for years to come because it takes years to develop mineral rights. The other thing is many of the minerals are in parts of the Ukraine that are controlled by Russia. And last but not least, no one knows whether those minerals are so great to begin with because these so-called surveys were done by the Soviet Union. So that goes back a long time.
And it was years ago,
Years ago. So who knows how accurate they were. So this whole scenario to me is, if I was Zelensky, I would have said, sure, I'll sign the deal. Keep the money coming.
Yes,
to me,
that's what he wants, right?
I thought it was a no-brainer. And who knows, 10 or 15 years from now, whether there's any minerals there. But in the meantime, we got this thing going on. In 10 or 15 years, Trump will be dead. Zelensky, he might still be alive, but Putin probably will be dead. So whatever they sign now will be academic 15 years from now. So just keep the money coming, let us maintain our independence. But Trump's position, and he's correct, we've been at it for 3 years. Russia's not going to lose this war unless we get involved, and we're not going to get involved. So what can you do to stop the slaughter and the killing of thousands of people, both Russian and Ukrainian? We got to sign a peace deal, a ceasefire, develop some sort of treaty like we have in Korea, North Korea, South Korea. No one was ever happy with that. No one is happy with that. But at least no one's dying in Korea. Let's stop the killing and move on. And in the meantime, Ukraine can tie up its relations with Western Europe. Western Europe can build up its military and start to diverge away from America, which is okay too.
And this is stuff we've discussed on the podcast on Thursday, but I mean, this has brought us to a different aspect, and I don't know exactly that whole blow up was Well, before we get to that, I'll say this is our Peace Through Strength Brief, brought to you by the American Security Council Foundation. I'm your host, Joy Votrobek. This is our senior analyst, Laurence Sanford.
Joy.
And Larry, like I said, so I couldn't help but wonder, was this whole thing an act? I mean, why do this in front of national cameras? Why wasn't this hashed out beforehand?
I can't answer that, but to me it's incredible that Zelensky took the pose of the petulant little child when things weren't going his way, dressed in an outfit that wasn't fitting to be in the presidential office. He got away with sort of being a petulant little child with the Europeans and with the Biden administration, though maybe he thought he could get away with it. Or maybe, you know, he met with the Democrats, in particular Chris Murphy of Connecticut, and they might have ginned him up to tell him to be strong with Trump because that's what you have to do, blah, blah, blah. So he might have been ginned up by that. I'm not so sure.
This is just an interesting twist I'll throw in there, but I believe I heard that Zelensky was an actor previous to him becoming president, so it just made me wonder if he was putting on a little more of an act there.
I don't know. We had a great president that was an actor.
We did, Ronald Reagan, and he never acted that way.
No, he was always a gentleman.
Yes, that's very true. No, but it made me think that, well, okay, so now he goes to Europe, tries to cut deals with them, gets their support. But as the Europeans, the UK and France said, they need the Americans to be involved.
They have no military interest in Europe, and the German economy.
And that just goes to Trump's point.
Yeah, German economy is going down the tank because of the green energy policy, where they gave up nuclear energy and wind farms, and UK's economy is flat, and France is not a real big player. So.
And they need the U.S. to really help them militarily to do any of this stuff. Yeah. And that goes to Trump's point of them needing to put up more money into military in NATO. Yeah. But if Zelensky wants military aid, he's going to need the U.S.
Right.
So it appears now he's willing to come back to possibly sign this deal. Do you think he will sign the minerals deal?
I think he will, but I hope he stays in the Ukraine.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah. He has nothing to lose, in my opinion. That's the part that really amazes me. So, and he could have signed it while he was in the Ukraine. He didn't have to come to the U.S. So why did he want to come to the U.S.? I think he wanted to push the deal on NATO and security, and Trump was not about to do that.
Yeah, he does want that. I mean, he's now offered to step down as president in order to have Ukraine in NATO, which I don't see happening.
I don't see it happening. And, you know, NATO was originally formed, and the Europeans were all in favor of NATO because the motto was, we want Americans in, the Russians out, and the Germans down. And that was the original premise of NATO. So it's changed then, and NATO countries like Poland and the Scandinavian ones are more than above the 2%, 3% limit as far as expenditures. So they're aware of the Russian threats, but particularly Poland, because, you know, they're right next to the Ukraine. So the East European countries are a little more cognizant of the threat of Russia. But I'm not optimistic that the leadership, there's all sorts of leadership problems in Western Europe. So.
And Zelensky wants a security agreement, because if he's going to come to some negotiation, there's got to be some sort of security that Putin won't reinvade Ukraine. Now, if NATO is off the table, which I believe it is, then this minerals agreement would at least give some security. If Americans are going to come in, private enterprises are going to come in and get minerals, there's got to be some security there for them to come in to Ukraine.
Yeah. And of course, if there isn't a deal, it's going to be between the United States and Russia. And Ukraine's going to have to take it or leave it.
Right.
Yeah.
So either he agrees to this mineral deal, or, and I had to ask myself that question too. What's Trump trying to play? What angle is he going after here with? What is he trying to achieve with Putin?
I don't know. I think his long-term goal is that Russia should be, at least, if not an ally, should be somewhat neutral against America. That the marriage that he has with China is a fragile one indeed, and one of these days China's probably going to bite off a piece of Siberia. And so the long-term ramifications of Russia and China, to me, are slim. And of course, Russia is Russian Orthodox Church, which is a Christian church. And so Christianity is under assault all over the world, as we see it in Africa, and Muslims are killing Christians all over Africa, beheaded 70 of them recently in the Congo. And so Trump views Western civilization, and Russia has a civilization, so Russian civilization as bulwarks against the Chinese expansion and the Islamic expansion. So,
and I think that's a very good assessment, because I thought in my head to myself, when I asked myself that, is the same thing. Well, maybe the play is at least get Putin to where he's not as aligned with China. We don't want that. That would not be to the benefit of Trump's administration and what he's trying to do with China.
Henry Kissinger did the same play with China. They went to China to see if they could wean off Russia, so the Soviet Union. So,
if Putin or if Trump can work with Putin and get some of the sanctions off, then they wouldn't be pushed as much to sell oil and gas to China and other countries as well.
And it would help if there were more oil in the world, because that would drive down prices. So, and that would help everybody's economy. Mm-hmm. And also, the fact that these sanctions going on, I mean, India, again, is a long-term, should be a long-term favor of the United States. I mean, they're a democracy. And they're just buying Russian oil because it's cheaper.
It's cheaper, right, exactly. It's not against us, it's because it's
not, precisely, it's not
cheap.
Against us, it's about them. It's about us. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, peace through strength strategies. I think that Trump says a lot of things sometimes off the cuff, but if we look at his actions,
yes,
he says he wants peace. He wants peace in Ukraine and the Middle East. And his last term, he didn't start any war, so I do believe he wants peace.
Yes, I agree. Let's hope he continues the tradition. No invasion of Panama or Denmark or Greenland or Canada. Let's hope he just is blowing smoke. So, and actually, he has good points in all those areas. I mean, Panama, the Chinese are having an outsized influence on the Panama Canal. So.
The Chinese do, yes.
That's a subject for another day.
It is, and we have talked on that, but we'll see where this all goes. I mean, he has a lot of things to say, but he usually has some sort of art of the deal up his sleeve there. So thank you for discussing this with me today, Larry.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you to our listeners. We will be having a webinar on Ukraine and global leadership on March 12th at 2 p.m., so please join us for that. And to our listeners, please subscribe, share, and comment on this YouTube and Rumble channel. Also, you can follow us on Twitter, Substack, and Facebook, and all your favorite audio podcasts on your Apple or Android phone. Please join us again next time as we bring you Peace Through Strength podcast.